Um, Brett Favre has embezzled or stolen more than $5 million from people on welfare or people that need government assistance. And not only did he do that, but he did that to literally the poorest state in America. And he's from there. Not saying that he still hangs out with those people that's there or anything like that, but you should know the struggle going there. It's people that work day and night, um, whether it being a single mother, single father, mother, father, whatever that case is, it's still not bringing in enough income to take care of all the bills, provide the clothes and everything like that, and then provide food or something else. So they need help. And instead of that money going where it should, it went into his pockets. And apparently, there are text messages showing that, hey, is there any way that he could get caught, or could the media get a hold of it, which is just downright disgust. That is one of the most that is the worst human beings I could even think of. And the reason we watched the Stephen A, I don't know if I was muted for this, but it only had roughly, um let's see, it had, I want to say roughly, just over 500,000 views, and this one hasn't even broken 100K views yet. So you mean to tell me that somebody sleeping with somebody else's wife, consensual, whatever, has more appeal to the public eye than someone embezzling from hardworking people that don't have the right, or I mean don't have the means to provide for their entire family? Not to mention, he signed contracts worth millions of dollars. And not only did you embezzle that money, you put it to a school that your daughter attended to for a volleyball team. So volleyball stadium is more important than people's well-being in his eyes, not mine. But let's take a look.
Mississippi welfare scandal involving Hall of Fame quarterback Brett Favre. And let's face it, if this story happened just a decade ago, no media outlet would be able to stop talking about it. But welcome to 2022, and we have a lot to be distracted by these days.
What do you mean by that? If it was over, I think people would still talk about that. People still talk about the Michael Vick situation. Granted, it might be a thing, but people still talk about that.
So let's get you caught up. So these are the four main players in this scandal that you need to know about. On the far left is former Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant. He was the man in charge of the state of Mississippi when all of this went down. Now, next to him is John Davis, the state's former welfare agency director. Then next is Nancy New. She was the head of a nonprofit in Mississippi that worked with...
They all look sketchy to me, to be honest. But I don't do politics, so...
the state welfare agency. And then next to her is, of course, Brett Favre, former NFL quarterback and Mississippi native. They're all caught up in an alleged welfare...
Okay, let's see. The nation's poorest state used welfare money to pay Brett Favre for speeches he never made. That's messed up. Messed up. That's messed up in itself. 70 million in TANF welfare funds was downloaded out to a multi-millionaire athlete right there, a professional wrestler, a horse farm, and a volleyball complex. That's what I was speaking on. For I think it was Old Miss, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been.
Fraud scheme that, to the Mississippi State Auditor, says involved the misuse of more than $70 million, earmarked to go to the state's poorest. The money was instead used for all kinds of non-welfare related payouts, like to a retired pro wrestler, a horse farm, and yes, to Brett Favre. Keep in mind, this is the same state that's capital city couldn't even deliver clean drinking water for months to its residents.
That's my point.
And it ranks as the poorest state in the country, with nearly 20% of its residents living in poverty. That state auditor's report found that Favre took more than $1 million for speeches he never gave. Favre has since paid back that money, but the state says he still owes more than $200,000 in interest. That same report shows $5 million in welfare funds were used to build a new volleyball stadium at Favre's alma mater, the University of Southern Mississippi.
The University of Southern Mississippi. But this just goes to show it never matters about someone's talent or anything that they do when it comes to being an entertainer, as far as entertainment wise, like whether it be them singing, whether it be them dancing, football, basketball, whatever that is, it has nothing to do with what they do outside of that entertainment field. Because to me, and I might get a lot of hate when I say this, I just might. So listen to me carefully. This should be plastered everywhere. Just like Michael Vick was plastered everywhere. I gotta say it, he's a disgusting human being for what he has done. A vile person. I'm not defending any action that this man has done. Kells was everywhere in the news. They made a movie about it, and which is well deserved because he is vile. It is well deserved. But my point is, why isn't this in more places? Why isn't this getting just as much media attention? They should be on his ass. Granted, Kells' situation was literally out there. This is a whole state that is in poverty. And 4 people, including the governor, stole from them. and I just don't see why this isn't getting more attention than what it is.
His daughter just happens to have played volleyball at USM at that time. Favre and Bryant have denied knowing where the money was coming from, and neither has been charged with a crime, but Davis and New have.
Why not? Why hasn't he been charged with a crime?
This spring, New and her son pleaded guilty to
Embezzlement.
bribery and fraud charges and agreed to cooperate with prosecutors. Since then, an attorney representing New's nonprofit has handed over text messages from Favre that suggest to critics his further involvement in the welfare scheme. Favre allegedly writing in one text, "Nancy, Santa came today and dropped some money off." The messages don't indicate Favre knew exactly where the cash was coming from, though. Then just last week, Davis pled guilty to several federal and state charges. In the plea, Davis also agreed to fully cooperate with prosecutors as they pursue the case further. Joining me now to help break it all down is AJ Perez. He's a senior reporter for Front Office Sports, and he's been covering this story closely, as with a lot of other stories that we're always interested in. AJ, thanks so much for joining the show today. I mean, I kind of wanted to cover the waterfront in that intro. Is there something that I've missed, especially in terms of recent developments, that you think our viewers should know about?
There's a couple things, but you covered it very well. One was he didn't get the money funneled to the college, but he also was trying to get $1.5 million for an indoor football facility to help recruit Deion Sanders' son in 2019.
Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. Trust me, I wasn't going to let that one sit on the sidelines, no pun intended. So we just talked about John Davis taking a plea deal. You've written that you believe that Brett Favre just might be the very next target for prosecutors. How worried should he be that charges could be on the way now that Davis himself has taken a plea deal?
Yeah, as you laid out, there's two big fish that haven't been indicted yet. That's the former governor, Phil Bryant, and Brett Favre. Brett Favre is being sued in that lawsuit where we got all those text messages last week, and we've gotten several text messages that seem to show that Favre knew the money was coming from, somewhere maybe that it shouldn't be coming from. And that was, that's how he's been attached to more than $8 million of the welfare funds, either funneled to him, like you mentioned, through the speeches or to his projects. So, and the other one's Phil Bryant, who is not a plaintiff, unlike Favre. Favre is a plaintiff in that lawsuit, as you mentioned. But yeah, Bryant is still, that's who released all the text messages to try to on last week. He was trying to distance himself from Favre and trying to lay some blame on Favre instead of him.
AJ, is it just me? But I feel like this Brett Favre issue has kind of been percolating for a while. Tell our viewers, how long has Favre kind of been a target of this investigation? I mean, the money for the speeches that he took, for the speeches he never gave, God, I feel like that was yesterday, but it's been a while, right?
Yeah, it goes back to 2017 to 2018 when the state auditor started looking into a startup that he was involved in.
But he still
this was
hasn't
a
paid that
concussion
money back.
Treatment startup, a nasal spray to treat concussions. The startup was called Prevacus. And I actually covered this years ago because I wanted to talk to Favre for another story. So I actually mentioned Prevacus, and I did not go into the merits.
Why is he blinking so much?
Seems kind of wild to treat a head injury or traumatic brain injury with a nasal spray like Nasonex, but I gave it a mention. But this is how the state auditor kind of got into Favre. Was he got that $2.2 million, which did come from the same funds, and the funds are meant, as you mentioned, for.
Forget that. Let's go back to what I was saying. Forget that. On another topic with this, let's just take a look at Reggie Bush. USC, to me, Heisman, one of the greatest people to come from, one of the greatest running backs to ever come out of that school. Might be the greatest running back to come from that school. He was involved with, I believe, something with his teachers or something like that. With the the grades or whatever that is, something with grades, and they took his Heisman away. They took his Heisman away. They took his accolades from college. Why isn't the NFL stepping in and taking his Hall of Fame jacket, the statue, anything else like that. Because it not only, like I said, it happened Michael Vick, Reggie Bush. Off the top of my head, I really those are the two main ones that stick out to me the most. But accountability within the NFL, within other media, or anything like that, there is no way they should be thinking about indicting this man or beating around the bush or anything like that. You have evidence showing he knew the money was coming from places that it shouldn't be. Stephen A talked about how it was a text message to where he knew it was coming from somewhere it wasn't supposed to, and if he was to get caught, he would be in trouble. So I'm not understanding what the holdup is. That's just me personally. I really appreciate y'all, you know what I'm saying, for tuning in. Man, I really do, for staying tuned with me. I wish we could have got John or Jody in here. We'll try to get them in here next stream, but until next time, man, y'all be easy. Get up on my lounge, man.